got to one part and I can't really do it. Couldn't figure it out. And I just learned it last night. Voice came from. I didn't recognize it, but yes.
It's a voice.
Are we going straight into worship, or is somebody coming up here to? We're just starting?
Yep.
All right. Shabbat Shalom to everyone in the building, everyone online. We're going to get started. We're functioning a little differently today. People are not here, and some people are filling in, and we're just doing different things. And here's Roger. Roger comes in, and he's raring to go.
Coming to the front row. Make sure we stay in time.
What up? Let me give one more quick tune.
Debbie's there to make sure he stays in.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Huya say shalom aleinu. Shalom Aleinu, Ve'alko Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'alko Yisrael. Oh, say Shalom Bimroma, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oh, say Shalom Bimroma, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oh, say Shalom Bimroma, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'alko Yisrael. 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 Hallelujah. Father in heaven, let your name be sanctified. Father in heaven, let your kingdom come. Your will be done as in heaven, so on earth. Give us today bread for tomorrow. Let us be merciful as mercy has been shown. For yours is the kingdom and power forever, majesty forever. Amen. 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 Give us today bread for tomorrow. Let us be merciful as mercy has been shown. For yours is the kingdom and power forever, majesty forever. Amen. Let us not be overcome by trials. Let us as evil in your sight. Let us not be overcome by trials. Rescue us from what is evil in your sight. Let us not be overcome by trials. Rescue us from what is evil in your sight. Give us today bread for tomorrow. Let us be merciful as mercy has been shown. For yours is the kingdom and power forever, majesty forever. Amen. 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 Give us today bread for tomorrow. Let us be merciful as mercy has been shown. For yours is the kingdom and power forever, majesty forever. Amen. 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 Give us today bread for tomorrow. Let us be merciful as mercy has been shown. For yours is the kingdom and power forever, majesty forever. Amen. bend our knees. Oh Spirit, come make us humble. We turn our eyes from evil things. Oh Lord, we cast down our idols. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. And God, let us be a generation that seeks your face, oh God of Jacob. And God, let us be a generation that seeks your face, oh God of Jacob. We bow our hearts, we bend our knees. Oh Spirit, come make us humble. We turn our eyes from evil things. Oh Lord, we cast down our idols. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. One more time. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. And God, let us be a generation that seeks your face, oh God of Jacob. And God, let us be a generation that seeks your face, oh God of Jacob. Cried out. And God, let us be a generation that seeks your face, oh God of Jacob. Clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. He is so good. So good. If I could put my finger on the string, I'll be doing all right.
Mishkan
seek you, the more I find you, the more I find you, the more I love you. I wanna sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I melt in your peace, it's overwhelming. I wanna sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I melt in your peace, it's overwhelming. The more I seek you, the more I find you, the more I find you, the more I love you. I wanna sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I melt in your peace, it's overwhelming. Man, we're going to continue to worship. If you will rise. Yeah. seated. Unless you just want to stand and have that much praise in your heart right now. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Blessed is the name of his glory, his kingdom. Blessed is his name for all eternity. Blessed is the name of his glory, his kingdom for all eternity. For all eternity. Yeshua, he is my Messiah. He is Lord of all. Yeshua, he is my Messiah. He is Lord of all. He is Lord of all. He is Lord of all. Yeah. Hallelujah. Wait, okay. There we go.
You may stand again.
You can stand.
Yes. Jewish aerobics.
Adonai, open my lips, and my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai, open my lips, and my mouth may declare your praise. Open my lips. Open my lips. Open my lips. Open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Declare your praise. Declare your praise. Declare your praise. Adonai, Taitita, Ufiagi, Teilatecha.
Adonai Svatai Tiftach, Yagi Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ben Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Mekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot, Umevi Goel Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo, Be'ahava, Melech Ozer HaMashiach Magen. Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham. Amen. I better look at the slides or I'll do the whole Ami down for you guys. Baruch atah Adonai Mechaye HaMetim. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shechinato leTzion. Baruch atah Adonai hatol shincha ulchaneh lechodot. Baruch atah Adonai hamvorech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Amen. And our master, when his disciples came to him and said, Master, teach us to pray. He said, when you pray, like this. Avinu Shabbat Shemayim, Yitkadesh Mecha, Tavo Machutecha, Yehaser Etzonecha, Ka'asher Bashamayim Gam Ba'aretz, Etzlach Menu Lemachar, Ten Lanu Hayom, Umechalanu, Al Chovoteinu, Ka'asher Mechalnu, Kamanachnu Lechayaveinu, Al Tivienu Lidei Nisayon, Ki Im Tatzilenu Min Hara, Ki Lecha Mamlecha, Vehagevura, Vehatiferet, Vehome Olamim. Amen.
For the sake of our Master Yeshua, in his merit and in his virtues, may the sayings of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be favorable, be favorable, be favorable to you. Oh Lord, my rock and my redeemer. 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 Yeshua, Hu HaMashiach, Hu Adonai. As normal, when Damien's not up here, a cappella Shabbat Shalom. Until I could get that little finger thing that he's talking about. It's hard. Anyways, inside story. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. I'm Israel, I'm Israel, I'm Israel high. 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 Oda binu high, hey, Oda binu high, hey, Oda binu high, Oda binu high, hey, Oda binu high, hey, Oda binu high. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Sweet home, Dave Hazen.
Shabbat Shalom, good morning. We are so glad that y'all have decided to join us here live, in person, and online. Thank you guys so much for that wonderful session of worship. We thank y'all so much. Y'all did good. Travis is still coming out of his box there. So. Just as a reminder today, unfortunately, there will be no Hebrew class today. Darren has had to take a trip that was unexpected this afternoon. We have a couple things coming up. Tish B'Av. Did I say that right? Nope. Give me some help. Tisha B'Av. Tisha. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave that one alone. That starts tonight at sundown and ends tomorrow night at sundown. So may you have a peaceful and easy fast tomorrow. The high holy days are coming up. Rosh Hashanah coming up the 26th and 27th, and Yom Kippur on October 5th. So make your plans accordingly. And then right behind that is Sukkot coming up. But during Sukkot this year, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to have this thing called the Maker's Market. So what we will do is those of you who have some skills and those of you who don't have skills, you'll make some, like you've got a little special thing that you do that's your special gift. You know, sewing, quilting, or making wine, Lance. Jams and jellies, what we'll do, we're going to accept donations for all of those, and we're going to hold it down in the pavilion. And what you'll do is you come and buy somebody else's goods, and they'll buy your goods, hopefully. And all the proceeds from that will go towards the Green Space Fund. So it's going to be an exciting time for you to be able to show out. We would like to welcome the Tenney family from Illinois, Indiana, joining us today. The Fox family in San Antonio, Texas. The Price family, they're joining us from a strange place in Kennewick, Washington. And the Trevaux family from North Dakota, and the Jones family from Kansas City, Missouri. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you. Are you going to do the blessing for the kids? Okay. All right, kids, come on up.
ילדים בואים. Yeah. Oh, did you tell me to have a seat?
No, you're not leaving.
I heard L. All right. Bunch of kids. Here's my new one if you haven't seen him yet. Here's the head's new one if you haven't seen him yet. We got a lot of kids. So when we came and visited for the first time, this was what sold me. Was when Rabbi called all the kids up and he blessed the kids. And I was like, all right, this is home. Don't know how. We'll figure it out. So we moved 700 miles to be a part of this community because of this right here. Thank you for everyone who started that process, because look at this. This is your legacy. This is what life is about. And so, may Hashem. Oh, well, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Simcha Elohim. Ke'avayim. Voice. No, little. I'm sorry. Got confused there. Okay, good. Organized. Yeah, okay. Thank you. And I still mess it up. Yesamech. Elohim. She was a girl.
Set up, you two.
May Hashem bless you, keep you. May He cause his face to shine upon you, his countenance to go with you, and may grant you peace. Yivlechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom. Father, grant to the parents the patience, the wisdom, the patience, the wisdom, the patience, the wisdom. See, that's three. Okay, the patience, because I got four. The wisdom to raise these children and make them disciples of our Master Yeshua Messiah, to heal the world, as is our mission. Amen. Go to Shabbat school, read many books.
This way.
That's pretty awesome. All right, so since Darren is not here, I get to fill his shoes. It looks easier to fill his shoes because we're the same size, but that's actually a lot harder than it looks. So we have somebody who has been a huge impact in our community, who's been an impact in me and really encouraged me in a lot of ways that he probably didn't realize. But we've got a special treat today. So we've got Cody Leckberg. He's going to come up and share what Hashem has placed on his heart. Just real quick before we do that, we're still looking at it, so pay attention to Mighty Networks. What I might do if things work out, traditionally for Tisha B'Av, you read Eicha, which is Lamentations. I wish I could do it in Hebrew. Every year I say I'm going to do that, and then I don't. So I'm not there yet, but I want to try to maybe do that so that at least we have that. We can listen to the reading of Eicha as the tradition as we mourn the destruction of the temples and look forward to the Master's return and the rebuilding of the city of Jerusalem. May it happen speedily in our days. Mr. Cody.
Shabbat Shalom. You know, Lance and Ray and Travis always do such a good job up here. And I know that sometimes some people are maybe a little bit disappointed when they look up and Rabbi's not there playing guitar. But there's always consolation knowing, well, after that, you know, we get to hear a word from Rabbi. And unfortunately, that's not the case today. You guys are going to be listening to me. I'm actually planning on beating Lance's record today of 52 minutes. So buckle up. Lance had mentioned the 9th of Av, and, or Tish B'Av. Did I say that right, Dave? Is that right? No? Okay. So I didn't know a lot about it. Several weeks ago, I'd reached out to Rabbi and just mentioned, I said, hey, you know, if someday you need a day off, you know, way down the road, and you'd like me to, you know, maybe give a message, I'd be happy to do that. And he's like, oh yeah, let's do it on this day. And I was kind of thinking like maybe a year or two down the road. And he's like, yeah, do it on this day. So I said, okay, that's great. So for the last several weeks, I've been kind of preparing. And last week he sent me a text and he's like, oh, by the way, you'll be speaking on the 9th of Av. And it's a really, 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 really important day. So no pressure. It's like the most, you know, it's like the most historically significant day for the Jewish people. And he decided to have me, who's new to the Messianic movement, probably in the last couple years. I'm a Gentile. I spent a third of my life going to Andy Stanley's church. So, you know, who better than me to deliver the message on the 9th of Av? So I did a little bit of research on it, and this is what I found out, which is really amazing. And if everyone doesn't know this, it's a pretty good history lesson. So the 9th of Av. So it was the 9th of Av, 1313 BC, when the spies returned the bad report. Right, so that was on the 9th of Av. They said the land was unconquerable, and they wanted to return to be slaves in Egypt. Then 890 years later, the temple was destroyed on the 9th of Av. And then 500 years after that, the second temple was destroyed on the 9th of Av. Sometime after that, the Jews tried to rebel against the Romans, and they were slaughtered in the Battle of Betar, I think it was. That happened to be on the 9th of Av as well. In 1290, the Jews were expelled from England on the 9th of Av. And in 1492, everyone remember what happens? Columbus sailed the ocean blue, right? The Jews also got kicked out of Spain that year on the 9th of Av. And the further and further you go, when you get a little bit closer into history, Germany declared war on Russia, which started World War I on the 9th of Av, which then led into World War II and the Holocaust. And, you know, I kind of thought with this terribly depressing subject matter, you know, it's no doubt that, no doubt why Rabbi didn't want to speak tonight, right, or today. He's actually at home, he and Kelly are at home right now recovering from moving Annabelle, recovering physically and emotionally, moving her into college. So the baby bird's flown the nest. We talk about, everyone kind of laughs, right? I'm gonna talk about Dave for a second. Dave is one of the greatest guys in the synagogue, and we all kind of get to laugh and joke when he comes up and says words wrong. The fact of the matter is, there's like 5 people in the whole synagogue that know how to say all these different Hebrew words. And so when we're in the crowd and he's saying them wrong, we just feel good because we know that we can't say them right either. And you would think that, you know, saying the names of the towns that people are listening in on would be easy as well, and it's not. And the big one for me was Prescott, Arizona, right? It's Prescott. It's spelled P-R-E-S-C-O-T-T, Prescott. Prescott is how it's spelled. And we were notified that we were saying it wrong, and it's Prescott. So it's not as easy as it sounds. So I thought I'd tell you guys a little bit about me before we get going. I'm Cody Leckberg. A lot of y'all see my family around. If anyone's on Shalom at home, that was my wife's doing, Kristen. She put that all together as a way to connect us. We have 4 small kids, and a lot of families here have large families, but we're all kind of spread out. Rabbi said that on any given Saturday, there's about 55 people that are here in the seats, but online there's between 300 and 500 watching, we think. And we wanted our kids to be able to continue to connect with all the other kids around the synagogue and around the country. So Kristen came up with Shalom at Home. And quick plug for that, if you're not involved with Shalom at Home, send an email to kristen@shalommacon.org and get you signed up. But it's a great way for folks to connect. So Kristen was the one that put that on. And we've just been really, really blessed by that, and really just being part of this awesome congregation. I mentioned that, you know, I'm a Gentile, and I spent a long time at Andy Stanley's church, and it's actually where Kristen and I met. But I grew up in a small town in Oregon called Bend, which is used to be a great town, used to be a fantastic town. It's kind of gone downhill since I was a kid. It was probably one of the most beautiful places to live. Incredible mountains. We lived at the foot of the Cascades. There's, you know, beautiful lakes to fish in and rivers, and we lived in the desert. It was very, very cool. It wasn't diverse ethnically at all, but it was very diverse culturally, I'll say. When I was in high school, the folks that you'd run into, you'd come into high school and you would see sort of the typical, you know, the jocks and the preppies and whoever else. But where I'm from, we had a couple other kind of different groups. We had cowboys, and when I say cowboys, I mean actual cowboys, like they lived on a ranch and they rode horses and they roped cattle. We lived at the foot of the Cascades, so we had a lot of snowboarders and ski bums, things like that. We actually had a lot of, there's a big logging industry there, so we had loggers and lumberjacks, which are a real thing. People don't think those are a real thing. My family come from a family of lumberjacks, actually. And I grew up in the late 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and I got to be on the forefront of, and this is something Rabbi and I talk about all the time, but I got to be on the forefront of probably the greatest music movement of all time, which would be 90s alternative, grunge, which may not have been as popular down here, but needless to say, with lumberjacks and Nirvana fans, it was like covered in flannel for like front to back for years. But one of the big things there was because we're in such a beautiful area, it brings probably the biggest population, which was hippies. Tons of hippies in Bend. Oregon is already kind of crunchy as it is, but Bend became kind of the mecca of the hippies. But what was cool about it is we had all these different kinds of people, and we didn't really have a lot of friction. Everyone really got along really well, for the most part. And that kind of bled into religion. We have friends that were, I didn't grow up in church at all. We never went. But I had friends who were Christian and Catholic, a lot of friends that were atheists. I had a handful of friends that were Wiccan, like full-on Wiccan, like would dance naked in the fields during the summer solstice. Like that's a real thing. And it was just sort of, that's how it was. That's kind of the vibe of Central Oregon. It's just sort of, hey man, whatever works for you. So not growing up in the church, the only real experience I got was with my Aunt Karen. My cousin Patrick was my best friend growing up, and anytime I'd spend the night over there, she'd make us go to church, which we didn't like. The only upside to it was donuts. They would serve donuts, so that was like, all right, I'll go anywhere for a donut. I can spend an hour anywhere for a donut. And we never really got a lot out of it. We were just trying to make it through and get out so we could go, ride dirt bikes or whatever we did. So that was really the only real Christian influence that I had in my life. When I was in the first grade, I went to a public school, and there was an organization in our town called The Good News. And The Good News is actually still around. It has a really interesting ministry model. But what they would do is they had a little travel trailer. These two ladies, they had a little travel trailer, and they would pull onto a school campus, and if you had your parents' permission, you could go listen to The Good News. And you got to miss one class at the end of the day, which signed me up for that. And so my mom signed the permission slip, and I got to go listen to The Good News. And it was through that, and it was through these ladies that, I heard the gospel. I understood, Jesus was the Son of God. Jesus came here to die for our sins. And I, like they said, accepted Jesus into my heart. The way we would say it was, I became a disciple of Yeshua at that point. And I know there's a lot of debate among folks in the Messianic world as far as the idea of, accepting Christ or becoming a Christian or being saved or whatever. But the bottom line is that's when I made the decision that I was going to follow Jesus as his follower. Growing up, like I said, didn't go to church, didn't have a Bible, and it was pretty cool to see Jesus reveal himself to me, even without those things, even without going to church on Sunday, even without having a Bible in our house. He still revealed himself to me and did so throughout the rest of my life, which was pretty incredible. I lived in, on that same note, I would kind of imagine looking out into the crowd that most folks probably have a similar story as that. I don't think, except for the very young kids, I don't think anyone was brought up in a Messianic synagogue. I wouldn't think. Maybe one or two for some of my kids. And so we have a really interesting congregation here. We have a lot of folks who were brought up in the Christian church, and from most people I've spoke to, kind of had this feeling of something's missing. I like my church, I like the things that are said, but something is missing. And that's what Kristen and I felt, over the last, probably several years ago. Like I said, Kristen and I went to Andy Stanley's church for years and years and years, about 15 years. I think everyone's probably fairly familiar with Andy and his views. I don't think most of us agree with a lot of what he says, but you have to give him credit. He's a phenomenal communicator. He's a great leader. He just believes things kind of much differently than we do. So when, I don't know, probably maybe 3 years ago, well, probably longer than that, we were going to North Point, and like I said, if you haven't gone to North Point, I'll kind of give you an idea of what it's like. It's The North Point campus in Alpharetta, Georgia, which is their kind of their main campus, and everything. All the other campuses are modeled after that. It's a huge building. It's a huge parking lot. So when you pull in, you're kind of worried because you're going to have to fight through traffic to park, but they've got a whole team of people in vests and walkie-talkies that are directing people around. So it's a real easy process to park. And then from there, you walk into the building, and there's a bunch of people. They're all lined up. They're dressed the same. They're smiling. They're handing you bulletins. You walk in, and it's like the size of a regional airport. I mean, it's phenomenal how big it is. And everything's done very, very well. There's volunteers everywhere pointing you where you need to go. If you have little kids, you'll go off to an area called Wambaland, and you'll walk down a hall, and it rivals anything you've seen at Disneyland as far as the decorations go. Lifelike looking animals and things hanging from the ceilings in these incredible environments. And if you have a little bit older kid, they might go to kid stuff. And in kid stuff, you're going to walk in, there's going to be a giant stage, twice as big as this, full of volunteers dressed the same and doing music and choreographed dances, and a full-size Volkswagen bus parked there. Just everything's kind of done to the nines. From there, you'll go into the. This is not an advertisement for North Point Community Church, by the way. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what this environment is like. Once you get to the point where, okay, drop the kids off, we're going to go into the sanctuary. There's a giant sanctuary. It holds 2,500 people, 3,000 people, I think. If you're late to that, if you're late and you can't find a seat, you go right around the corner, and there's another identical sanctuary that holds as many people. And what's wild about that side is the stage is, again, probably 3 times as long as this, and they've got a screen that drops down, and they have a high-definition video camera or a projector that projects everything that's being played on the other side. It's projected here. And you'd think, well, that's kind of weird to watch a video of the guy in the other room. The wild thing is, I knew people that only went to the overflow sanctuary and never knew it was fake, never knew it was a video, because it's such high def, it's so well done. Andy stands exactly as tall as Andy does on the other stage. It's incredible. Music starts. These are real professional musicians that have record deals that might be on the charts that week. Might be on the music charts. I mean, it's the real deal. Everything is done very, very well. Everything, you've got lights and smoke machines and visuals, and you've got cameras kind of flying around to get the right shot, and guys on stage, and it's so over the top, but it's done very, very well. It's a very emotional experience. When that's done, lights will go down, and then it'll pop up a video sometimes, and it's a highly produced, a very well done video of someone's testimony. And it looks like anything you would see on TV. It's incredibly done. It's great music. It's emotional. He talks about their life and what Jesus has done for them. And after that video, lights go down, and spotlight goes up about 20 feet up on the wall, and there's a built-in baptismal. It's 20 feet up, and there's the person you just heard is up there, and the pastor's up there. And he's going to talk a little bit more and baptize him. And so, again, people are clapping and cheering, and it's an emotional, it's a great experience. You get done with that, and then Andy Stanley takes the stage. Andy is a phenomenal communicator. He's the things that he said that put us at odds with him, things like unhitching from the Old Testament. Obviously, we're not a fan of that. An op-ed that he wrote, and I quote this out so we can all be on the same page here. He said, Jesus issued his new commandment as a replacement for everything in the existing list, including the big 10 Commandments. Just as his new covenant replaced the old covenant, Jesus' new commandment replaced all the old commandments. That's kind of the foundation of his belief, right? Something we totally don't believe. You don't have to agree with what he says, but I think we can all agree if you've seen him at any leadership conference, he's a phenomenal communicator. So Andy would get up and speak and give a great message. And with all those things, with all the environment, with all of the pomp and circumstance and smoke machines and incredible music, incredible speaking, after, I don't know, we were probably there 13 years and we thought, something's missing. There's just something missing here. We kind of kept hearing the same sermons every couple of years. You start kind of hearing the same sermons, and they didn't quite have the impact they had before. And so we said, we're going to start looking around. We need to find something else that fits us a little bit better. So we did what a lot of, I bet, folks in here have done, and we kind of church hopped for a while. And I'm not a fan of denominations. I never have been. Like I said, I didn't grow up in church, but I always thought denominations were weird. The Baptists don't agree with the Lutherans, the Presbyterians don't agree with the, Episcopalians or whatever it is. Everyone has their own taboos, right? So no drinking or no tattoos or, whatever. I don't know a lot about it, but I've always heard that Baptists don't like drinking because they're afraid it could lead to dancing. But I don't think that's really true, but I think a Methodist told me that, so I don't take it for what it's worth. So we bounced around and we went to, you name it, any different kind of church. And what we found was when we would walk into a church, I always got kind of an uncomfortable feeling because my family kind of stands out. And everyone knows it, and it kind of felt like, fresh meat. Like, hey, there's new people, go jump on them. And, make them feel welcome, but they always kind of made us feel uncomfortable. We stand out a little bit. For folks who don't know, it's my wife and I, and we have 4 Asian kids. And so, now we have 4 Asian kids with Swedish last names that speak Hebrew. So it's kind of a funny thing now. But then just folks would kind of jump on us, and that was fine. People were trying to be friendly, and that was great. And we would try out different churches. And we've tried churches before that the music was terrible, and it's just kind of hard to sit through that. We've sat through churches before where the message was real weird, kind of had a weird vibe. We had one church, it was actually a pretty big church, and the pastor was so cringy that we couldn't handle it. And my wife's like, we have to leave. And kind of felt like we're trying to dine and dash, because we're like, we got to slip out, you leave first, but don't let me see you, and then I'll leave the other way. And so we kind of snuck out, and we realized, oh man, we have to get our kids. So we had to get our kids out. So we've had those experiences before, but what we found was, first of all, in the South, there's a church on every corner. So we're not wanting for churches down here. But what we found up in kind of North Atlanta area is if you were a non-denominational church, you were the North Point model. You did everything the same way North Point did, only you didn't have Andy Stanley as your speaker. So we would bounce back and forth. We would do this, then we'd go back to North Point for a little while, and then we would find another church. And we did this back and forth. And we finally got to a point, we went to a church that we really liked. It was a smaller church, non-denominational, but wasn't really the North Point model. And we were feeling pretty good there, but after maybe a year, something's missing. We feel like something's missing here. And it was about that same time that Kristen came to me and she said, I keep reading, things keep popping out when I'm reading scriptures. And the thing that's popping out to me right now is the Sabbath. I feel like we need to honor the Sabbath. I think we need to take that day off and not work. To which I was like, nah, I'll pass on that. Saturday's the day I go to Home Depot and do my shopping. We do all kinds of work. All the projects are done on Saturday. So no, we're not going to do that. But as God works, you start opening your eyes to more and more of these things, and you think, man, okay, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's a reason that's one of the 10 Commandments. We need to honor the Sabbath. So we started doing that the way we knew how. We just stopped working, and we would try to do a Shabbat dinner on Friday nights. But it was kind of a bummer because I couldn't work on Saturday, and then we'd go to church on Sunday. So we're still going to church. So honoring the Sabbath on Saturday and then going to church on Sunday, I wasn't getting any projects done around the house. And it was kind of irritating. And so we kind of kept going along, and trying to figure out, what the best thing was for our family. And we kind of got into a little bit of a groove. And then Kristen came to me and she's like, I think there's something to these dietary restrictions. I don't think we should eat pork. And I was like, not just no, but like Gehenna no. Like, this is not going to be a thing. Like, you're not taking tasty bacon away from me. I'm sorry. And I fought it. I was like, we're not doing that. We're not Jewish. We're not doing that. And once again, God works on you. You start reading more things. And of course, she was finding things in the scriptures and pointing them out to me. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we'll maybe give that a shot. And I think the last pork I ate was a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit from Chick-fil-A, which was so good, so good. But it's okay. I don't miss it. And so doing these things, right? We had our friends obviously started to notice. Our church friends started to notice. Our family started to notice, and it kind of raised some eyebrows, right? We had friends over that we invited them over for dinner, or we invited them over, and they said, "Oh, let us bring lunch." Okay, great. And Kristen got off the phone, and I said, "Well, did you tell her that we don't eat pork?" And she said, "No, she's not going to bring over anything pork." I was like, "Well, maybe just ask. Maybe just say it." And so Kristen called and said, "Hey, what do you plan on bringing for lunch?" "Oh, I'm making ham sandwiches." Kristen's like, "We don't eat pork anymore." And she goes, "Oh, I didn't realize you guys were so legalistic." And she didn't say it in a mean way at all. She just was kind of shocked that was a legalistic thing. And so we said, that just is what it is. And that opened up a conversation to some degree. The time we gave up pork was kind of at the end of the year, which what happens at the end of the year? Thanksgiving ham, Christmas ham, New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day, which for folks watching around the world and around the country, in the South, in America, there's a meal that you eat on New Year's. And there's black-eyed peas and collard greens, which are for wealth. There's cornbread, which symbolizes gold. And there's pork, which symbolizes, of course, health, of all things. And so we stopped doing things on Saturdays. We stopped eating pork. My in-laws were kind of looking at us a little bit sideways. They weren't real on board with it, but I don't know. They were real happy about it. They weren't being ugly about it anyway. But I'll say this for folks that can't see, my in-laws are sitting right here today, and they're going to be Torah Club leaders here in the next few weeks. So another amazing way that God works. So, pork was one thing. We talked about shellfish. I've never been a fan. Kristen loves shrimp. Shrimp quesadilla is probably her favorite thing that she would eat. Shrimp's always grossed me out. I've always told her that anything with a line of poop going down its back, maybe not the best thing to eat, but protein. But I've just been grossed out. Like crab, lobster, scallop, they're all catfish. They're all bottom feeders. They all kind of gross me out, so I've never really ate it. So giving up pork wasn't a big deal. Or giving up shellfish wasn't a big deal. There's a great scene from the movie Pulp Fiction that I can't quote all the way because of all the language. But there's a point where John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson are sitting down to have breakfast, and Vincent says, "Hey, you want some bacon?" Samuel L. Jackson, Jules, says, "No, man. I don't eat bacon." He goes, "Why, are you Jewish?" He goes, "No, man, I ain't Jewish. I just don't dig on swine." He goes, "Why not?" Jules says, "Pigs are a filthy animal. I don't eat filthy animals." And Vincent says, a very true statement, "Yeah, but bacon tastes good. Sausage tastes good." And Jules says, "A sewer rat may taste like pumpkin pie, but I'd never know because I wouldn't eat the filthy thing." That's how I've always felt about those kind of foods, and it turns out, I think it's how God feels about them too. But the deal is, it's not that big of a deal. It wasn't that big of a deal. Once we got into it, it wasn't that big of a deal for me to give that up. Along those same lines, for those of you that don't know me, or people that do know me, no, I don't drink. I don't drink alcohol. I never have. When I moved to Atlanta from Oregon and started hanging around Christian people, I remember I went out with some friends one night and they all ordered beer. And I was kind of shocked by it because I didn't grow up around Christian people. I didn't think Christians drank. And so they all ordered beer. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And they said, you want beer? And I said, no, I'm good. I don't, no big deal. And that was fine. But as I got a little bit older, kind of in my early 20s or mid 20s, and people would offer me a beer or whatever, I'd say, no, thanks. And then people started asking me, why? Why don't you drink? And at first I kind of gave, that's not my thing. It's awkward to say, oh, I grew up in a family full of alcoholics, so it doesn't work with my DNA. So I just kind of say, that's not really my gig. But the more people would press me on it, I came up with a great response. People would say, why don't you drink? And I'd say, oh, because I love Jesus. And it was a joke, but it just made people feel really uncomfortable, Christians especially, because a lot of Christians down here don't drink. So if they say, you want to drink? I said, no, I love Jesus, I don't drink. They immediately felt judged, and they wouldn't talk to me about it anymore. And it was always kind of funny to me. But what I noticed is in 42 years of being on this earth and 20-some years of being able to legally drink, no one's ever pressed me on that. If I said I don't drink because I love Jesus, no one pushes me on it, ever. But when I say I don't eat pork, and they know that I go to Messianic synagogue, man, I get little mini sermons about that. Like, all food's been declared clean. You can eat whatever you want. Rabbi said that someone told him that Jesus died so he could eat a bacon cheeseburger, those kind of things. So I was never, about drinking, I've never been pushed. Eating, people get really, really, really upset about it. As a matter of fact, when we were at that church, I was part of a men's group, and a good friend of mine kind of led this group, and that was kind of the time we were transitioning out of the church, and I had met back up with him sometime later for lunch or for breakfast, and of course we met at Waffle House because we're in the South, and I ordered my normal, which was an all-star, eggs over medium, hash browns, but no bacon. I tried to get an alternative at Waffle House and said, do you guys have anything other than bacon? I said, yeah, we have ham. Okay. Anything other than ham? Yeah, sausage. So I was kind of out of luck, so I ordered bacon, gave it to my friend, and that was at a point of my life in the Messianic journey that I was pretty zealous. I would say we've been talking about zealous a lot, and I got pretty fired up about the things I was learning, and really it was just excitement. It was just all these new things we've learned, and talking about Easter and Christmas and dietary restrictions and things like that. And I'll just say it didn't go well. It didn't go well at all. He felt very judged by the things I said. I wasn't trying to, but he felt very judged. And on the flip side, I felt like I wasn't being heard. Everything I said, he had a rebuttal for. And what are you going to do? You're going to follow 613 laws? You're not Jewish. You're going to be like this guy I knew, and you're going to, he thought I was a step away from becoming Jewish and renouncing Jesus, and didn't quite get the idea that we were kind of, I still love Jesus, still know Jesus, but we were doing things a little bit differently. And so, as I was writing this message, I kind of felt like, this is going to be my opportunity to get up on stage and kind of rebut all these things that my Christian friends have said and be able to kind of prove my point while I was up here. And the more I thought about it, I'm sorry, one of the things that Jeff said to me, which is the name of the message, was the slippery slope. It's like, man, you're on a slippery slope, doing this Messianic thing. Ooh, you gotta be careful. You're gonna be wearing tzitzit and prayer shawls and yarmulkes and all this stuff. You gotta be careful. And really worried that, I was just going to become full-on Jewish, I guess was his worry. So being on that slippery slope was something he was really concerned about, and something that's always kind of stuck with me. And so when I was writing this, I kind of had the idea of, this is going to be rebuttal to them, and this is going to be how I'm going to answer the arguments they put up against me. But really, the more I thought about it, the more I realized there's kind of a second slippery slope that we deal with. And that second slippery slope is us, and is us being sort of judgmental towards our friends who aren't in the Messianic movement, our friends that are still celebrating Christmas and Easter and eating pork and things like that. And it's really easy especially when you get into a good community like this, where you're around people that believe the same way you believe and eat the same way you eat and celebrate the same way you celebrate. It's easy to kind of stay in this little cocoon and sort of stiff arm the people that don't believe the same way you believe. I have an assumption that most people here probably have dealt with that to some degree. I imagine you came from a Christian church, you started making this transition, you started getting a little bit of a pushback, and I imagine that most people at some point said, hey, you didn't say it out loud, but you said it internally. I'm doing it the right way. You're doing it the wrong way. You should probably listen to me. And really, I don't think that's the way it needs to be. The slippery slopes that people have kind of talked to me about are putting too much emphasis on the Sabbath. You know, you don't have to take that day off. You should be going to work on, you should be going to church on Sunday. We had a neighbor at our last house that was great, the Ruckers. They were our favorite people. They're in their 80s, super great folks, and very, very devout Christians. And I mean, built wells in Africa and built orphanages in Africa and provide Christmas presents for underprivileged kids in Kentucky, like all the great things that a Christian should do. And let me use his big commercial mower to mow my 4 acres of grass that I had. And it's funny because I would do it on Sunday. You know, we would have our service on Saturday and I would go out and mow on Sunday. And every once in a while he'd kind of flag me down and he'd say, hey, what are you doing? You're working on the Sabbath. And I'd say, well, Sabbath was yesterday. And he'd say, well, says who? I said, the Bible. And he'd go, whatever. And that was kind of it. He didn't really care. And that was kind of a great relationship we had. But the idea of not working on Saturday kind of made people, sort of uncomfortable to some degree. The dietary restrictions, of course, are always a really, really big one. What I found is, with pork and shellfish and things like that, denying ourselves the things that we once really liked is a great way to honor God. If you really want to read into what God has had to say about the things that we don't eat, he's pretty bold about it. He's pretty serious about it. And it doesn't seem to me that things have changed a lot since the time God said that and then when Jesus showed up. I don't think there was a big change then. So that's something that's important to me. And what we found is when people kind of push us on that, I just say, hey, listen, this is something I'm convicted about. And people, for the most part, leave it alone. Because most people are pretty polite and they don't want to attack your personal convictions. The festivals, celebrating the festivals was kind of an unusual thing for some folks. You're celebrating a Jewish festival? You're Jewish? You're not Jewish? What are you? And what I'll explain to people is, well, this is the stuff Jesus would do. Jesus celebrated these things, and we like to celebrate these things. And that normally works out. It can get awkward. And I remember one time we were at our in-laws' house for dinner on a Saturday night, and it was all of us, and it was Kristen's sister and husband and his mom. And we had dinner, and afterwards we did Havdalah like we always do. But looking at it from the outside, it seemed really weird. And I kind of realized that. It was like, okay, hey guys, everyone turn off the lights, and let's light a candle, and let's sing this weird song that you guys don't understand. And hey, put your hand in the fire. And hey, smell the spices. And I'm kind of looking around and getting kind of sideways looks. And I said, wait, Jesus did this, so it's cool. And I felt like that kind of cut the tension a little bit because, I had a friend of mine a couple weeks ago tell me that he thought I was in a cult after telling him, a good friend of mine. And but when you do things like that, it kind of looks like you're in a cult. But Jesus did it, so it's fine. That's kind of what I go with everything. But the festivals they've been incredible. Shavuot, I'm sorry, was a great time. Sukkot, Shavuot, now I can't say it. Shavuot. We had a fantastic time. Sukkot, when we camped with all the families, all of our kids running around, all the things we learned, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, all of these. For those of you that weren't there for some of these events, we had a donut eating contest that Rabbi lost. I don't know how, but he pounded down 5.5 Krispy Kreme donuts and still didn't win. But just, now I'm totally blanking now, sorry. Hanukkah, sorry, couldn't think of it. I wrote Hanukkah 100 times in this message, and when Kristen was going through it, she's like, man, you found some really interesting ways to spell Hanukkah. But Hanukkah, Christmas has always been a really, really big deal to me in my, growing up. And for us to kind of transition from Christmas to Hanukkah was hardest on me. My kids didn't care. My kids were super excited. They prefer Hanukkah 10-1. But I liked having the Christmas tree and, doing all the things that the Old Testament says not to do, and cutting down a tree and bringing it in and adorning it with gold and silver, right? I was like, who cares about that? I love having a Christmas tree. But we've kind of slowly transitioned from that, and that's been a little awkward for some people. But the blessings we've got have been just incredible. I mean, just absolutely, right? Jovi, Ian, where's May? May and Rhett? You guys prefer that over Christmas? Yep. And so, we were going through all this. We're going through all these transitions, and I felt, at least personally, I started kind of moving towards this idea of the slippery slope of judgment, and thinking of these are the people with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus hanging on the wall. These are the friends celebrating Easter, and you're celebrating a pagan god. Really getting fired up about this stuff. But really, the deal is, we really need to, I think we really need to be careful of how we approach these things, and really focus on our friends that maybe don't believe the same way we do. I imagine everyone here is the same as me, and that you have found so much depth in Jesus, looking at him through a Jewish perspective. So much more depth out of the scriptures, understanding things, again, from a Jewish perspective. And these are things that I want our friends to know. I want our friends to experience this. But it can be kind of tough. So, I guess my recommendation to everyone is, embrace these things. When you have friends that give you a hard time for eating pork or going to church on Saturday or whatever, fine. Have grace with them. Be graceful with them. Don't push back on them. Don't give them a hard time about it. If someone invites you over for an Easter dinner, go hang out with them for Easter. It's a good opportunity to talk about Passover. If you're worried about food, pack your own food. Bring your own food over. It's better to show up with your own food than to not show up at all. We've been turned on to this amazing thing. This Messianic movement has been incredible for us. I've learned more in 2 years about Jesus and about the scriptures than I learned in the previous 40 going to church. And I want everyone, all of my friends, to experience that. I've dialed down my zeal a good bit because I think that getting excited about things can come off as sort of judgmental, especially if someone's not at all aware of this kind of Messianic thing, this Messianic movement. But if I distance myself from my friends who don't believe the same way I do, they're going to miss out on the blessings that we've received. I grew up with actual pagan friends. I have friends who are actually witches, and they never judged me. And I never judged them. We all got along. And I think that we, as this congregation, as a Shalom Macon congregation, I think we can do the same thing with our friends. I think we can hang out with our Christian friends who are going to eat an Easter ham, and I think we can have a great relationship with them, and I think we can kind of show them the things that we've learned. So reach out to the friends that don't do the things exactly like you do. Let them see the blessings in your life that you've received in participating in the festivals. Let them see the newfound depths of your knowledge of Jesus from looking at him from a Jewish perspective. Even your friends that don't believe the same things that you do or think that the things you do are crazy, communicate with them. Love them. Go where they are, be where they are, I guess in other words, just be more like Jesus. Shabbat Shalom. Sorry, I should have given you a cue. I was glad you're in the room.
Very good. Always love hearing the testimonies of folks and seeing where they've come from. And very good word. And I'm so glad that we have people that are smarter than me. It took me about 15 years to chill out and not beat people over the head with my talit, It's soft, but I mean, if you throw those, these can be whips. So anyway, wonderful. And again, you guys have been such a huge blessing to this family, and I don't know where we'd be without you. You guys answered so many prayers, and my children, thank you, because by your example, I'm learning to be a more gentle father. So my children's rear ends, thank you. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and stand. I got to find my place, which I think it's 427. Is that right? 423. All right. I'll try to do this. Kind of like all right, 423. לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים הוא אלוהינו אינות אמת מלכנו אפס ובתו ככתוב בתורתו ידעת היום השבותה אל לבביך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחתינו נאמר היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו May Hashem bless you, keep you, cause his face to shine on you, lift his countenance toward you, and give you his peace. So we try to remind people every once in a while, if you're not a Cohen, typically you might hear, if you haven't noticed, that you'll hear some people say something in an undertone. Ken Hiratson. It means yes, maybe according to your will. So when you're not a Cohen or a high priest, their job is to actually pronounce this blessing. So we recognize there is no Cohen, no high priest present that has that obligation. But we still want to ask that Hashem bless his people. And so after each sentence,